Today I'm going to use my new freshly picked Cricut cartridge to make a shaped card. First of all, I need to add it to my cartridges library. So we'll go to the drop down menu and we'll go to all by category, and we have to look for freshly picked. There it is, so we double click on it to open it, and then we go to preferences and we tick my cartridge. Now we go back to the drop down menu and go to my cartridges, and it will now be in the list. There we are. This is much easier to do when you're designing from your own cartridges, because sometimes you forget and you add an element from another cartridge which you don't have, and then you can't cut the design you require. First, decide on the size of your card. I would like mine to be an A5 card, so the size I need is 7.5 inches. I like to use the shadow feature for my base card, so I have a slight border when layering up the main image. I am going to do a gnome today, so I'm going to click the Shift key and the second button, and the gnome I am using as the 7th image along the top row. Position this as near to the bottom line as possible to ensure that it fits on your A4 height of 8.25 inches. Now choose another one the same and bring it down beside, overlapping slightly. The left hand one, highlight and go to flip shape, and this makes sure when your card folds that it folds exactly and you don't have the hat pointing in two different directions. Also, while having this one highlighted, check the X and the Y numbers, because you want the Y to be the same. The Y is 3.768 on this one, and it's slightly different on here, so we have to change to 678, and that makes sure that your card is sitting exactly. Now highlight each one in turn and click the welding key. Now, to ensure that it has welded, I am going to jump to 100%, scroll down the page, and I'm going to click on the preview button, and as you can see, it is joined at the feet and the arm. We're now going to choose a new page so that we can put all the pieces we need so they have plenty room. Now we need to choose the main gnome image, which is the base layer with no buttons clicked, and again it's number 7 you're working on. So we click on the gnome, and there he is, and we'll position him on the mat. Next, we click the second button, and this gives us his little nose. There we are. And we click the Shift key on the base layer, and this gives us our top layer, which we will cut in a skin tone colour. Next, the first button, which gives us our second layer, which goes on top of his head. I'll just show you that. And that is cut in black. Shift key on the same button, and this gives us his hat and his arms. This won't fit on this mat, so I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to open a new page and place it on a new mat. There we are. Now we're ready to cut this design. We need to save this now so that we can cut it later. So go to File, Save As. I have a folder called Cricut, and give it a name. So I'll call this Gnome Card A5. And make sure, if you're working with the DS and a Cricut only, that it tells you here that you're saving it as a Cricut cut file. And click Save. But I also want to save it as a Gypsy file, so I'll go to File, Save As once again. And this time I'm going to name it the same, Gnome Card A5, but this time I'm going to change the setting to Gypsy file, and I'm going to double click to open my folder where my Gypsy cuts are, and I'm going to click Save. So now I have both files ready to cut with either the Design Studio or my Gypsy. I have decided to put another full layer of the gnome on the front of my card so that you don't see the fold, and that the main image of the gnome has an even border all the way around. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Remember to save again. We are now ready to cut. When you place your pieces on the mat, be sure to lay your mat in the same orientation as this green arrow here. I'll show you what I mean. Where the pieces are on the mat on the screen should be in the same place as the mat you have to put in the Cricut. Load your mat and click Cut icon on the screen. It will ask you if you have a jukebox connected. I don't have a jukebox, I just have the one cart, so I'll click No. Now it will start cutting.